echo.
Yeah, it's coming on.
There we go.
It's coming on. It's not you. It's the energy.
Everything's energy.
That's right. Where two or more gather, there's some incredible things happening, whether it be virtually or physically. All right, we're starting to connect to them all. All right. 10 are on, 1 to go. All right, so we've got just got 1 or 2 people in the house. We're going to give it a little time. Looks like the connection's moving slow. We're going to play the intro real quick, and then we have a special guest, Pete Evans from Australia, chef. And I looked at some of his stuff. It looks very, very interesting, by the way, the way he stuffed vegetables. But anyway, he's also a free thinker. From the little I've researched, he seems to be a free thinker, and he's got big etheric balls. Big props to him. We'll be right back. So we got Pete Evans in the house, and I don't usually do bios or anything like that, but I didn't know anything about him, and I had all these people like coming at me going, man, it's going to be a great show, and people just making a lot of comments about his energy and what he's doing with himself. And I came across a couple of things I just want to read real quick just to kind of give us, a little impression of his energy. Now, Pete's involved with something that looks real interesting called the Evolve Network. And here's a couple of intros into a couple of shows. An intimate discussion with iconoclast Pete Evans delves deep into the nature of fear and how we can transmute it into a powerful force for good. He talks about how he has done this in his own life and career and delivers an honest exposition on his views towards the current global paradigm. So both the personal and the global. And here's another one. He joins Freddie Silva as they delve deep into the history of humanity and talks about Freddie a little bit, and then talks about, topics such as secret science, crop circles, restricted history, and that type of thing. So I would just want to say to you, sir, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming in and sharing space with us. It's an honor. And also, I want you to know you're in a community of crazy people. This is where we all kind of congregate. Everybody's a free thinker like you. Everybody respects each other's reality, and everything is relevant. So I'd love to hear a lot from you. I would like to ask you one question to start off. Did you have a wake-up moment in the last few years? Did something trigger you to say things aren't what they seem to be?
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Todd, and g'day everyone, and thanks for the nice messages that I'm seeing on the chat. It's a really interesting question because I was having a discussion with this yesterday with a friend of mine, that people are fascinated about that moment in time, that wake-up call, that the catalyst for change. And it's interesting because in interviews these days, over the last few years, I've really met effort to not give one particular point in time where something may have manifested, because the further I go along this journey, the more I realize that the awakening moment was actually some 47 years ago, or maybe 48 years ago, when I was conceived, or actually that moment of the conception, so to speak. Because ever since then, every single decision that we've made, consciously or subconsciously, has led us to where we are now. So we could talk about the first time I did LSD as a 17-year-old and what that did to me. We could talk about a surfing accident when I was 14 and nearly died, and how that changed my perception. We could talk about smoking 5-MeO-DMT or Bufo or various, and dissolving the ego completely, and having an egoic death, and understanding the true nature of reality. And that could be another aspect. It could be the birth of my 2 daughters. It could be the meeting of my wife that happened 10 years ago. So all of these quite significant events have cultivated or have been the ingredients for the recipes of my life. But at the same time, it's the subtleties, it's those smaller nuances that we get to choose each and every day. What are we eating? What are we drinking? What are we thinking? What time do we go to bed? What time do we wake up? All of these things, if we give them the same grandiose as these big cataclysmic sort of big events in our life, that's where I'm leaning towards, and that's where I feel like the strength is in a message like this, is because a lot of people are looking for that magic pill. What was it for you that changed the way you thought? What is it? Because I want a bit of that, maybe. If I only have that one life-changing experience, then I get it, and that's how I can teach my friends and family to wake up. But really, I honestly believe it's this lifelong journey of the subtle, of the subconscious, the conscious, but also the grandiose, and when we start to label these things, and over the years I've really wanted to understand this idea of identity, human identity, and when we label ourselves, because a lot of people have a preconception or misconception of who I am because of a craft that I have maybe spent a bit of time learning how to do quite well, which is cooking. So they label me as the chef, and that then becomes a limiting view on somebody. And this is why this is such a great conversation, Todd, because you know very little about me, and that's the best.
Yes.
Because when we can go into a relationship with somebody where we are completely curious and somewhat naive or ignorant about who that person is, I think that's a really good place, because a lot of the times the person that you're speaking to or interviewing still hasn't worked out who they are.
I think we're all in that category, but there's a spontaneous element to it. There's a spontaneous element to it.
Spontaneity is such a beautiful space to be in, and it's that unknown, the uncertainty, the curiosity, the oh fuck, what's about to happen, and that's where we can really grow, because when we can really assume the position of the student, that's when mastery allows itself to come forward. And there is again, I've come to the conclusion that student and teacher is our journey. It's as simple as that. If we can maintain that idea of being a student at all times, but also a teacher, either to ourselves or to others at the same time, then there is no then we don't get caught up in lack or abundance. It's just neutrality of the curiosity of life.
Yeah, that's a powerful duality to bring into the 0 point field, right? Master and teacher. I mean, master and student. student, teacher, one and the same. But you're right. Do you feel like that, as things stand today with the energetics, because I can tell you're totally into the energetic language, would you say that there's something working with us, that there is an expansion of conscious manifestation, conscious creation, where people's intentions are meeting in the etheric field and we are creating something better?
Mhm. I was with you up until the point of better.
Yeah, you're right. You must have some Buddha genes in your lineage, man. You got that shaman mentality. You got to stay on your toes. Yeah, I guess I would rephrase it to open to the possibility, open to that. Is that possible? Something like that.
Yeah, 100%. This is an exciting period of human history, that's for sure, as has all other periods of human history been equally as exciting, as will the future be. And, for me, the last year has been really quite exciting. It's probably the best word I can use. It's so we are here to have a human experience in the most glorious ways. And what does it mean to be human? It means to feel. It means to experience. It means to go through all of the human emotions and really feel that, really experience it, really experience the joy, the elation, the peace, the vitality, the clarity, the pain, the loss. And I could keep going for the next hour with all of the experiences that we can and emotions that we can feel. And my perception is, over the last year, is that we are really getting an opportunity to go through the gamut of human emotions, to shake us to the core of what a human experience is. And a lot of people call the last year the Great Awakening. And it's such a beautiful period to see this play out, because you can observe the frustration, the anger, the hatred, the love, the compassion, the understanding, the curiosity, again, all of these different things. And it could happen in one day that we experience so many of these things.
Yeah, it's like a summary day and like a summary day in a summary life.
And it's definitely not boring. And
Hell no, it's not boring.
And the invitation, because it is an invitation, is to see how each and every one of us, individually but also collectively, will be able to walk forward through this period of time. Some people will want to flee, head towards the hills and become preppers, make sure they've got enough food, enough water, enough power, enough shelter, perhaps, for what is coming. Others have become quite political activists, social justice warriors out there, just going, enough is enough. This has to stop. This can't continue. Other people have put their head in the sand. A lot of males around the world, I've noticed, in the Western world, have actually just sort of, oh, fuck this. This doesn't look good, doesn't feel good. But I actually don't know. I don't know how to deal with this. So they put their head in the sand, and
that's a powerful observation. Thank you for that.
And we're witnessing this dynamic of this shift really quite accelerating at the moment. And as an observer plus a participant, I'm so curious about this period of time because you can't ignore it. Well, you can, but why would you? Why would you? Why would you want to ignore this pivotal point in time? And I put a post up the other night on social media. I'm available on Telegram. That's the only place I haven't been deplatformed from at the moment. And I held up this meme of Trump at his opening his executive order book, and it was something like, "The best is yet to come." And it was really interesting because I knew it was going to trigger people. And I've got a little bit of a trickster in me, or the Joker in me. I like
Shaman.
to get people to think.
Yeah.
I'm curious about it, and I don't do it in a evil way. I do it in a, okay, well, this is going to push some buttons, and for some reason, I have created the space for me to be the button pusher, whether I like it or not. And part of me does like it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, you got, like you said, you're an observer and a participant, but it's the questions that pave the way for all of us. It really is. It's the questions. And I've said this many times on the program. I love people that make you think. I mean,
and I'll finish that thread when I wrote that. And I wrote the question. I said, do you know how this story ends? And I went on to say, no one's coming to save you, whether you believe in Trump or Q or the light beings of the world. My perception, and this is just my perception, is no one's coming to save any of us except you.
That's right.
And all the yous that are reading this, and all the yous that aren't reading this, the only people coming to, and we don't actually need saving. That's the funny reality of this, because we have created this. Collectively, we have chosen to create this world and be manifested into this world right now. And I said, once you see the solution to this is you will never unsee it. And collectively, will we get there in this lifetime? I don't know. Individually, we can. We can save ourselves if we believe we need saving. And I'd question that as well. But it was a really triggering post, and it was fascinating because I was discussing it with my friend yesterday about this post, and I said, I would say 50% of the people didn't actually read what I wrote. They just saw the picture of Trump holding up something. And I said, that's a fascinating observation, because when we're living in this world where people can't even see what is written, this is an interesting time. This is an interesting time because a lot are so steeped in their beliefs, and they're triggered by an image instead of seeing the whole picture, because it brings up their belief systems. It brings up their subconscious, and
makes them think.
And some people will say, yeah, this is the best time. This is the Great Awakening. It's happening. And I pointed out the other day, I said, well, if it's happening, why isn't it manifesting into the physical form at the moment? I said, if you look around a Western civilization, such as Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom, Canada, USA, I know if I go down into the central business district or a large town or an airport or a shopping mall, if I have my observation lenses on of the health of this country or this town or wherever I am, the statistics and the evidence that is presented to me will show that 70% is overweight, obese. The statistics of how many people are on antidepressants, pharmaceutical medications, that are not healthy living examples of human beings. I would say, is the Great Awakening happening? Are people taking responsibility for their own actions? Is the mass population looking after themselves and loving themselves with deep, deep self-love, deep self-respect? And I wish I could see the world through rose-colored glasses sometimes, but the evidence would say that we may have a long journey to go until we cultivate that self-love, when we will do everything in our power, which is very simple, not to self-sabotage this one human experience. So, and with the last year manifesting like it has, it's made me even more curious. It's like, okay, what's going to happen here? Where is humanity going to go? Are we going to give away our freedoms to the current systems that we know are corrupt? We know the financial system, the educational system, the government system, the medical system, the agricultural system. They're all corrupt and out of balance in some way, shape, or form. Some of it has integrity in those systems, but a lot of it has been corrupted. Are we still going to believe in these systems and give our power away to these systems, our individual self-sovereignty to these corruptible systems over and over and over again, and keep giving away a piece of us to mummy and daddy government and big pharma to look after us? When is the point going to come when we decide to opt out of those systems collectively, or create or adapt these systems or new systems that better serve individuals and community alike and the planet alike? And everything's accelerating towards that point, and it can go so many different ways. There's so many different narratives and agendas and storylines happening. And you know this quite well, Todd, and I'm sure your listeners know that just because an agenda is in place, or a storyline or a narrative is in place, doesn't mean it will play out, because we still have free will, and there's billions of storylines manifesting and co-creating and intermingling and intertwining each day. But yeah, I'm so fascinated by what's about to happen. My personal belief is that the systems are in fear and panic mode. What I mentioned before: the government, the medical, the pharmaceutical, the media, the social media.
Yeah.
All of these, they're acting out of fear and insecurity and lack, and I can see it clear as day.
Let me ask you a question. I'm totally with you on this. So hear my question out. At what level do you think this revolution will take place? This resistance, this no, we will not participate. I mean, with what you just said, there's many people that can resonate with what you just said. It's a very energetic, from the soul, personal transformation, as within without. It's an energy. It's palpable. It's part of the awakening, if you want to call it that. But then you also have everything in between, like old school protest and chaos. I mean, and it also could be multifaceted. It could be happening on several different levels. How do you see this thing going down? Because you seem to be very plugged into both what's happening at the ground level and also the etheric level.
I don't have the crystal ball.
Yeah, no, that's number one.
Yeah.
So now it's just
And to be completely honest, I don't know. I don't know. And I think if anybody says they have the answers, having an answer for 7 billion people plus every other creature on the planet, I think is probably the I'd be very cautious of that.
It's bigger than all of us.
Yeah, because
it's bigger than all of us.
Who wants to know the future? Who really wants to know what's about to happen? It's
true.
The surprise. The surprises is is so fun. It's so, because it keeps us on our toes. It keeps us. Oh, I wonder what's going. When I wake up every morning, I do the what I'm grateful for. But part of that is, I wonder what's going to happen today. What's going to happen today? What am I going to put out into the world that may have a ripple effect? What happens in the world that may have a ripple effect back to me? What are the chance coincidences of somebody that I may meet? What are the things that, will I get a flat tire which will lead me to some new revelation or some new encounter? This spark of curiosity is, for me anyway, that's what I love. That's what keeps me alive. So to know what's in the future. And it's been a really interesting thing for me personally, because in the past I have been able to, I won't say see the future, there is truth in that, but when I just say in the past, when I've created something, whether it be a documentary, whether it be a business, whether it be whatever it may be, a garden bed, you have an idea. If it's congruent to you, if it's in alignment with you, 99.9% of the time or 100% of the time, you'll go, okay, I can see that playing out. I can already see the end result of that. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen. I've had that ability, as everybody else has done. It's called intuition. It's about self-expression and creation with a desired outcome. We have the ability to do that. That's what we're really gifted at doing. Yeah. So I've been able to cultivate that over the years into a knowing of the outcome. But part of my journey has been as well to let go of that expectation and outcome in a lot of what I do. And it's been something that I've really wanted to cultivate, is removing the expectation of an idea. And as somebody that was born, if you believe in astrology, Virgo sun, Virgo moon, very organized, very structured, very systematic in my approach to life, my greatest fears have been letting go, surrendering to the uncertainty, surrendering to the unknown, surrendering to the spontaneity of things. It's been a conscious adventure for me for the last 20 plus years to really go into that space of letting go of the expectation. And I catch myself still every day. It's an ongoing journey for me. I won't say it's a battle, because I don't like that word, but it's an ongoing.
It's like you're downloading superpowers, and at the same time, you can't really
manifest, because we can manifest. Yeah. We can manifest. We are manifestors, and part of, I don't know whether you've looked into the gene keys and the work of Richard Rudd or people like this, the I Ching. Part of my gene keys is to be a manifester and of divine will. They're my two strongest elements for me, and exhaustion is one of my weaknesses. And from somebody that used to work 80 to 100-hour weeks in a kitchen for 20 years as an entrepreneur, restaurateur, I understand. I've lived through exhaustion. I understand the things that pull me out of my knowing. It's even this morning or last night when I went to bed, I asked you, Todd, do you mind if we push this back half an hour? Because I was feeling tired last night. And I was like, okay, for me to give my best today, I'm going to ask, hopefully Todd will be gracious enough to push this back half an hour so I can be more present instead of pushing myself out of my comfort zone to a degree. So once we can identify our strengths and weaknesses, part of the journey is letting go of some of those strengths. Part of the journey is embracing those weaknesses that we perceive in ourselves. And perhaps getting to a point of neutrality with it all.
There is a demasculation to the masculation. The true masculation, or however you want to put it, whatever term you want to put there. But yeah, well put.
So how do I see this playing out? I see this playing out infinitely and eternally. This is an ongoing journey because a lot of people, when I created our first documentary, which was about the power of food as a form of medicine, the title that we came to was called The Magic Pill. Now, I called it The Magic Pill because it's something that people are looking for. If only the cabal get arrested, for instance, or the perpetrators get arrested, everything will be perfect in my world. If only everybody could live this way of life, like with this dietary principle, everything would be great. If only we could switch to free energy, then everything would be great. So people are looking for this destination point in their life of, if only, when that happens, sweet, we know we're on the right path. And my perception is this: just as human beings are here to learn, to grow, and I don't like to use the word mistake, but I'll use it in this context, for us to perform mistakes over and over again until we learn the lesson. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to be. And one of the beautiful things that I've come to accept is that we're mirrors for others as they are mirrors for us. So when I see somebody living the life, such as eating junk food, getting vaccinated, becoming a guinea pig, having angry thoughts about themselves and the system, I'm like, okay, well, that's one way that universal consciousness is experiencing itself. That's a mirror for me to go, you know what, good on you, go down that path. If that's your choice, you have free will. Kudos to you too, because that may bring you a lot of pain and suffering. That's a pretty heroic journey you've chosen to embark on this human experience, one of pain, suffering, distrust, anger, giving away your power. Like, you know, congratulations, you've actually done you've taken the hero's journey there. Yeah, in a
I think we all have to some degree or another.
Well, that's the point. We all have. We're all on our hero's journey, and
That's
some
right.
of us are just like, you know what? I see you. I respect your decision to go there. You know, you're not really contributing to the better good of the planet. But again, you have free will, and I can't influence you because I would be no better than the powers that be, so to speak. But you're a great example, and I'm so glad that I get to witness you and feel you and see your hurt, see your pain, see your frustration, because that's a really guiding light for me. It's a compass to say, I'm going to walk the other direction.
Yeah.
Because I see other people walking a different path where they're full of energy, they're full of light, they're full of curiosity, they're full of non-judgment, they're full of acceptance, they're full of surrender. They've let go of any expectation that they have in this life except to be. Oh, wow. And I equally celebrate those people too. Now, where do I fit into this mix? Because I can go down every single path and I can choose to experience that person's path, that person's path, that person's path, until I work, and all of those paths help to bring a greater awareness to me. I'll go back 15, 20 years. I owned a nightclub in the red light district of Australia for 10 years. It was the hip happening place where the cool people would go to, and I owned that. I got to live that experience. I got to experience what it's like to consume copious amounts of drugs and alcohol and this, that, and everything that goes with that. I've also chosen to live an experience at the moment, which is the complete opposite of that. But I'm so grateful for that experience of that
Right.
life, because I'm like, wow, that was a trip. I'm so grateful for that, because now I know that that doesn't interest me anymore. I enjoyed it at the time. I've got to be completely honest with you. There was moments of pure bliss and wonder and just excitement. But without experiencing that, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Whereas now, people who say come out and have a night out with me on the piss, I'm like, you know what? I'd rather sit here with my herbal tea and feel great tomorrow because I've got shit I want to do in the world. You know, I want to be ready for this podcast, right? To get to connect with
well, that's
people that.
that's the great benefit of duality, the contrast, right? Do you think maybe the Earth trip is like an amusement ride in the great cosmos? 144 central suns away, no disrespect, and we get dropped off into. We choose how deep we want to go into hell to see how far we want to rise into a heaven from an energetic, standpoint.
Yeah, it's a really interesting. It's a great question. My
Hey,
wife
when
and
you
I
were
were.
you were explaining everything a minute ago, the one thing that kind of stood out, I wanted to just say something to you about was even though you're connected at all levels that pull your curiosity. I mean, you're all in. And the thing is, though, you have a sense of humor too. I mean, like I can see where the laughs, no matter what path you choose, whatever happens, wherever you're at, you do have a way of keeping it in perspective, it seems, and even through some of your posts that I've seen.
Yeah, humor is great. My wife and I were having a bath last night, and we were watching Gaia television. We were watching this episode of Deep Space about artificial intelligence, and it's been a theme that's been with us over the last week. Is where do we come from, and was the true nature of reality? And it was interesting because I was exploring this last night when we were watching artificial intelligence and are we in a virtual simulation? And can there be? I'm a firm believer of paradoxes, that more than two things can be true at once. So
Yes.
we could be living in a virtual reality, yet at the same time we're living in a beautiful manifestation of source consciousness that is organic. But at the same time, last night in the bath, I was like, yep, we are actually just manifestations of artificial intelligence at this particular point in time. Artificial intelligence has created the human race so that they can experience what it's like to feel this pain, this anguish, this elation, this joy. Yeah, I was certain of it last night sitting in the bath, and I had a laugh, and I said to my wife, yep, yeah, this is, none of this is real. None of this is real. We're just playing out characters, and there's a computer simulation behind us. That just wants to feel, that just wants to experience all that is. But then on the same level, at the same time, the paradox is that we are God. God is just experiencing itself through all these different manifestations, because when you experience yourself as God, without you being in the singular, that you are everything without you being there, you get to understand and have the experience that everything you have already experienced, everything that has ever happened in the past, everything that's ever happened in the future, in every single possible manifestation ever, it's already played out. You have already experienced it. Not you individually as Pete Evans or Todd Medina, but you as source consciousness. And there's this wonderful duality, non-duality paradox playing out that I laugh about it every single day, because
Right.
I want to get a grasp of it, then I want to let it go, because I don't want to hold on to it too tight, because it'll drive me crazy. So at the same time, I let it go. But at the same time, letting it go sort of drives me crazy as well.
It's that observer.
Part of that craziness is the laughter, is the humility, is the
Yeah.
I may never know, but at the same time I do know.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's like that observer participant thing. It's like I love it too, because the paradox thing, I mean, that's always
And
been very obvious to me the last 10 years, and you can't even explain that paradox. You can't.
and I'm loving that Candace has wrote it here. No need for drugs to trip right now. Hang on loosely and go for the ride. And this has been the ongoing thought, sort of saying my wife and I have, like, those days were like, what a trip. Like, what a trip. And it's exactly right. I mean, the last year and a half, prior to that, I was being called to experience different psychedelics and different experiences in other realms. And for the last year and a half, it hasn't called me at all. There's been no calling. And in actual fact, when I've tapped into that question of, is there any substance or anything that I should be experiencing right now? The answer is no. This is the greatest trip of all time right now, 2020 to 21. Get yourself a cup of herbal tea and experience this. Experience this moment. This is the greatest show on earth, as they say. Like, Hollywood movies do not. That's why Hollywood's just taken a dive. That's why TV series have taken a dive. That's why mainstream media has gone. You know, all the ratings are going because right now, this is the greatest show, and we're participants. Right. We're actors in this. And so, how's this going to go unfold? It's like when we adult up and take full responsibility of our own selves. That's how this is going to unfold. And without putting any projection on it, the individuals that are choosing not to, that I celebrate for choosing not to as well, you might go through what I would call the dark night of the soul when you do have a psychedelic experience. We're in that right now. Now, some people that have experience with meditation, with breath work, with other forms of conscious expansion, and have gone through the ceremonial work of journeying through their darkness, through their shadow, learning to embrace it and love it as equally as the strengths in them. For the individuals that have manifested at this particular point in time in human history that have chosen not to do that work in the past, there is no escaping that work over the coming decade for those individuals. And for the ones like yourself, Todd, and the ones that have listened, that have faced many of their demons, that have gone to places to do some deep analysis on who they are, this period of time, it's nearly like we can sit back and hold space. Yeah. As happens in a ceremonial experience where there are sitters, there are guides out there, because when people are starting to go into panic mode, to go into fear, to go into, oh, fuck, that, and they don't know that they've taken the medicine, but there's no turning back. Right. Humanity has taken the medicine over the last year. Some people know it and are like, okay, here we go. We don't know where this is going, but we're prepared and we trust and we accept and we surrender to the experience. And it could get really fucking dark here. It could get really scary here. It could bring up a lot of shit for us, you know. Yeah. I've considered myself a light worker, or I've considered myself a spiritual person. Here we go. You were going to be tested. Well, I shouldn't say you were going to be tested. You were going to test yourself in this experience. There's no avoiding it. And for the other individuals that have no idea what I'm talking about here at the moment, we will potentially have to hold space for them and help guide. And it could get really rough for a lot of these people. And, I don't wish it on anyone, but at the same time, the growth that happens from identifying and looking at who we are and what happens through these ceremonial journeys, ultimately, it's not really the experience that shapes us, it's what happens afterwards. It's the integration. It's like, okay, I've been given the download, I get it, I understand it. Now, am I going to play it out in real life? Am I going to use that wisdom that I had, that I've got access to now, to create and be a person that takes full responsibility for their own actions each and every moment of the day? That's how this is going to play out in my mind. Now, how long that takes for the planet to go through that, I don't know.
Well, I
You know,
think there is ways. Candace was thinking the same thing I was thinking. She said, this is one big ayahuasca ceremony. We are the ones with the buckets now, potentially. But it's almost like it's a relay team, you know? I mean, you can see that. You can see these waves of people. And also the way you described it, I wanted to ask you, do you think that the energetics or whatever you want to call it, the level of awareness from a frequency level, from a vibrational level, is going, let's just say, upwards or expanding? And if so, do you think that that's, going to have an effect on people that are not awake, so to speak? Uh, Almost in the form of a higher intelligence coming in, like a hallucinogenic experience.
you ask some good questions, Tom. You ask
Well,
some
you
good
make me
questions.
think. I just work off the mirror in front of me. It's incredible. Your energy is incredible.
I would like to believe that. That's probably the honest answer. I would like to believe that is happening. But the reality may be different.
Yeah.
Again, we have to do the work. One of the common comments that I see on my social media is, I just want this to end. When's this going to end?
Right.
And again, I'll revert back to a ceremonial journey. It's probably the worst thing that you can ask for in that journey is, when's this going to end?
I've been there. I've been there, not as many times as you, I don't think, but I've been there. But
Because
isn't that
if you're wanting it to end, you haven't learned your lesson.
right? Right.
Because
Exactly.
I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go
So
there.
this, when you use the word paradox, like I'm actually looking at paradox differently now. It looks like it just turned into a more multidimensional sacred geometric figure. But that of get me out of here on one end, and I am soul on the other end. You know what I mean? But like there is a kind of a space in between. That's that space you're talking about. Are we becoming that space? Are we becoming that paradox, like you said? Like maybe the math
we
is.
we already are.
We already.
It's just
Yeah.
it's
Here we
just that
go.
remembrance. It's just
Yeah.
that remembrance.
True.
And
True.
it's and
Do you, do you?
I I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form, but I'm perfect in my imperfection. And
Yeah.
again, I don't have the answers for anybody, let alone myself. Every day it's like a reset. It's like, here we go. I've already sworn a few times today. Maybe I shouldn't be using that language, but it's how I express myself at this particular point in time. And,
Well, feel free. Feel
uh,
free.
and sometimes I post something or say something. I'm like, that wasn't godly of you, Mr. Evans. You're still expressing your insecurities, your fears,
Well,
your
as
thing.
long as
And
you're
then I
aware of
laugh.
it.
And then I laugh at myself. I go, yeah, I am. I am. That's the joy
It's
of
like
it.
it's like a state of I am nothing and I am everything at the same time, and way past the cliche of that, right? It's just like a state of nothing, but everything's available. I don't know.
And then the
Do you think
paradox
that?
comes that we manifest. We can
Yeah,
manifest. Going back to something we said earlier, we can totally change the course of this easily if we choose to. But there must be some part of us collectively that really wants to feel this at the moment. There must be a really big part of us that needs this to happen, like on such a deep level, on such a beautiful, beautiful, loving level for ourselves, that we have to go through this right here, right now. I'm watching people. Just I live in a beautiful part of Australia, and near where we live is Byron Bay, which is considered it's a meeting place of sorts of free thinkers. Well, this was the original place. It was the tribal people's meeting place in Australia, a very sacred part of this country. And they've got a festival called Blues Festival, which happens every Easter, where musicians from all around the world, again, quite free thinkers, congregate for a 4-day festival, music festival. And they cancelled it yesterday because there was one case of COVID in this country or this state, apparently. They cancelled it the day before it was about to start with 15,000 people that would come. And as soon as they cancelled it, part of me was like, whoa, they did that for one case? Like, the government has balls. Like, that could be the catalyst or the turning point for this whole scam. Just that to single out one event of free thinkers in that town, like, I was like, oh fuck, this is gonna get good now. Like, this story, this just got good. And straight away, I was to my friends and things. I was like, this is a time, if you choose to, that you go against the government. We get this group of people to class action or whatever it may be. This could be the defining moment for here in Australia, for a ripple effect. So with these, there's always an invitation, always an opportunity. There's always a silver lining, if you look at it like that. And so for me, even though I was like, oh fuck, how many people are going to be pissed off? Straight away, I go, no, don't fall into the trap of getting pissed off and angry. Find the invitation here. Find the gold in an experience like this. And so whether that will manifest, I've put it out there, just going, this is an invitation, this is an opportunity. I reached out to one of the performers, that's one of Australia's highest respected artists that was meant to perform. And I've been wanting to get into contact with them over the last 6 months, say, hey, maybe it's time for you to step up. I'm going to invite you to step up and help us, because there's not many people with high profile that's calling out this bullshit that's happening in the country. And I've been censored off Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, had all my business partners drop me because I am outspoken. And I know it scares you. But look at me, nothing's changed in my life. In actual fact, I'm neutral to it. I'm excited by it. It was the best thing that I could have manifested. So as soon as it was cancelled, I reached out to that person again. I said, do you think it's time? Like, now, do you think it's time? Like, is this the catalyst for you? Because there'll come a point in time, there'll be a catalyst for each and every one of us. And so each time a new freedom is taken away, imposition, or a state of tyranny or whatever, it's another invitation. It's another invitation. So how far is this going to go before everybody's invited to join the party, to say, you know what, that doesn't flow with me and my family anymore? I don't know. And that again is the curiosity of this. It's like, I'll finish by saying this. Each and every day I see more censorship, more restrictions on movement, or perceived restrictions on movement. I read mainstream news articles from America and Canada and the UK, and it's like that person that chooses to eat junk food, get vaccinated, and live with their pain and fear. Every time I see the government or these medical experts imposing another thing, I'm equally as excited. I'm like, oh fuck, you've gone there? Ooh. Like, if I was in your position, I would have just kept going along gradually over the next 100 years. For my agenda, if I was a tyrannical, agenda cabal, I just would have kept going how you've been going over the last few decades or centuries, just a little bit by a little bit. But over the last year, it's like they've just accelerated the agenda. Like, oh, you're making it visible to everybody.
Yeah.
And so every day when they do more, I'm like, oh, keep going. keep going, keep going. And part of me might be manifesting this, so sorry everybody, but part of it is like, for this to really manifest, it really has to be this way. For that exposure to happen, for everybody to see the corruption, the agenda,
Yeah.
because there is one. I promise you, there is one. And whether that's a collective agenda for us to wake up through this pain, and I'll finish by saying this, because over the years we've helped hundreds of thousands of people with their dietary approach, and the catalyst for most, I'll generalize here, for most of them, is they got to a point in their life where they were in so much pain and suffering that this was their last choice.
Mm-hmm.
Their last choice was take one or two things out of their diet, which is the most simplest and easiest thing in the world to do. But it was their last choice, their last chance. So what I perceived from that and observed from that was, for some reason, human beings like to get to a point of extreme pain and suffering before they take action. My goal is prevention. How do we get to that point of prevention? So we don't need to get into that place of pain and suffering. But from what I've observed and what I've perceived, and it's just my perception with this, is over the years, human beings, for them to change, they need to be in a place of so much pain and being a victim and suffering for them to change. So perhaps collectively we are manifesting that, because that's the collective nature of humanity at the moment. For change to happen, we need to feel pain and suffering. So hopefully it doesn't get to that point. Possibly it will. And if that is what has to happen, let's just take the vaccines for instance. If for some reason there's adverse reactions to an experimental vaccine or mRNA shot that people are taking, and it really puts a lot of people into pain and suffering and perhaps death, perhaps that's the course that we needed to take for
That would be very intense.
A shift in direction. And I've come to the point in that I have to surrender to that, because again, people have free will. People are lining up for an experimental vaccine in this country. And so, well, you have no idea what that's going to do in your body in the coming 5, 10, 20, 30 years, or for the next generation. Like, whoa, you're going there? Okay. You have free will. The evidence is there. There's nearly no excuse anymore. There's no excuse for people not to know how to eat.
Oh, everybody should know. Everybody should make their own choice. There shouldn't be any propaganda. I mean, I don't think it's going to take 5, 10, 15 years. I think that this issue and many more issues are going to be solved very quickly. And what I mean by that is, I think there's more and more people saying, fuck no, I'm not participating in that anymore. And basically espousing to what you're talking about within yourself and for all of us. I mean, I think the power that we're generating, I guess it's the other side of the paradox, right? That last thing you were talking about with this, and I agree with you, with this ill-intentioned global plan and certain puppet masters, that there's no end to that darkness. But on the other end of the paradox is us. That's the way I see it. And like, what do we have? What are we? What can we do?
Well, I'll throw one thing back at you, maybe to finish off this conversation, and maybe, because I do like to trigger people.
Let's go.
How do we hold space and light for the other side, if there is such a thing, the agenda, the cabal?
Yeah. What
if we can put ourselves into those positions? Because my perception is they lack self-love. Perhaps they've never had a loving connection in their life. Maybe they've been brought up in a household or in a system where, and it's very easy to witness this if you choose to. when you see lifeless eyes looking back at you from, and you probably know who I'm talking about here, you could list them, where you see darkness emanating from certain individuals or certain corporations. They no longer look like they have a human heart or a human soul beating or emanating from that. So my journey has been, what would it have been like for that individual or those people over their lifetime from child to where they are now? What does that look like and feel like for them? Are they just going through their dark night of the soul from birth to where they are now, where they actually do not know anything but? And do they think, there's part of me that thinks they're actually doing what they think is right. And it can be a challenging place to be. And I'm not saying that it's right or wrong or good or bad, but to look at it without judgment, but awareness, but perhaps a different perspective, maybe that's a place I invite you to explore, just for the sake of exploration, instead of just dismissing it altogether. And I'm not saying you have to go along with it and agree with them, but perhaps there's something fundamentally missing, and perhaps there is an opportunity there as well. And I don't know what that is. I know that anything is possible and paradoxes exist. so I haven't discounted the fact that they're beyond salvation of their own self-love and helping humanity. And that's an interesting concept to explore. But I don't spend too much time on it.
I hear you. I've always said, if they have these military tribunals and they arrest all these people and they try them and hang them or whatever, I'm more interested in seeing how we respond to that, not if it happens. Like, how would we respond to that whole episode? Would it charge us up and say, yeah, we got the bad guys? Or, would we move to a level of compassion? Like you said, all these things that are happening are opportunities. But I could talk to you for a long, long time. We got to get on to another show. We got started late on this one. How do people find you? I was searching for you. I found you on the Evolve Network, but do you have other websites?
Yeah, I've got a Pete Evans website, peteevans.com. But we also have the Evolve Network, so evolvework.tv. So we started that up. It's got the films that we've created, the TV series we've created. It's got a lot of different content. We have Laurie Ladd on there. We have Dr. David Martins adding content to it. So my idea behind this, or my intention, was to create a global, conscious, uncensored network. It's in its infancy at the moment. Like, we've only spent the last year developing this as a place for my content to start with, and now we're expanding out. So it has recipes, meal plans, it has interviews, it has documentaries from different parts of the world, from different concepts, from cryptocurrency to healing and whatever it may be. So my intention is to create a space for long-term sustainable well-being, in whatever shape that encompasses, or whatever form that manifests itself in. So you can check that out. It's a subscription-based program. It's $100 Australian a year to be a part of, or $10 a month, and that enables us to keep creating content. Since I'm no longer on Facebook or Instagram, but I am on Telegram with a channel there. But that's where you can find me. And I just want to thank you, Todd, for the trust and support and the invitation to come on here. And thank you, everybody, for the beautiful messages and for spending an hour with us today. It's been a trip.
Well, yeah, we people definitely need to be exposed to what you're doing, and so anytime you want to multi-stream and have a conversation and dive into these subjects, it's very fascinating to have a conversation with you. I appreciate it, and I wish you and yours the best always.
Thank you.
Take care. Peace out.
Love you all.